Hello and welcome to the Scholastic Spotlight. I'm Mr. McMillan. I'm really excited to tell you a little bit more about my world history class and introduce you to myself and just let you know what you can expect from this course. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll start by introducing myself a little bit. My name is Mr. Park McMillan. I'm actually a CHS alumnus, which for me I think is really cool. I love being back here at Carmel High School, my alma mater, but I think it's cool for the students as well because I can really relate to their experience in some ways. I remember what it was like to come in to this giant building and with all these new people and all those different things and to feel like a really small fish in a really big pond at first. But I also remember what it was like to really adjust and make that transition to high school. I remember all the amazing faculty and staff and the administration and all of the fellow students who helped to make that transition an easy one. And that is still the case today, I'm thrilled to say. Probably even better today than it was back then. So really thrilled to be back here at Carmel High School and to help your child and all of my students help to adjust to the high school. This is my 8th year in education. In some form or capacity, I've been here at Carmel High School the past 5 years and teaching this course specifically here at Carmel High School for the past 3 years. My educational background a little bit, I went to Pensacola Christian College for undergrad and grad school. I got my bachelor's degree in secondary education with social studies and speech as my two teaching fields. So basically my majors there. And then I stayed and got my master's degree in educational leadership, basically educational administration. But I don't currently have any plans or desires to go into administration. I really enjoy working with students and being in the classroom and all of those different things, so really enjoy that. Also stayed, by the way, at just last year, got some additional coursework and a certification through Indiana Wesleyan University and completed that program online. So I have some additional education there as well. Right out of grad school, I taught for 3 years at a small Christian school on the north side of Indianapolis. Colonial Christian School had at the time about 200 students, K through 12, so a really small school. And that was a new experience for me. I really enjoyed and learned a lot from that experience, but I'm thrilled to have now had the opportunity to be back here at Carmel High School and back, kind of in my old stomping grounds. Briefly, on my personal life, I'm married to my wife, Morgan, you see there. She's a speech-language pathologist at an elementary school, 10th Street Elementary, up in Anderson, Indiana, so we both work in education. We just celebrated our 4th anniversary back in June, and we reside in Noblesville, not too terribly far from her work up in Anderson, not far from me either, so that works well for us. We don't currently have any children, but that is something that on the horizon we're hoping for, so looking forward to that next chapter of life as well. All right, let me tell you a little bit about what we study in this course, broken down into 2 semesters. The vast majority of students that have me semester 1 will have me again semester 2. They try not to move students around from teachers from their core classes unless there's no way around it because of the electives that the student is taking. But so for the vast majority, you'll have me for both semesters. We cover 4 units in the first semester. The one that we're in the middle of right now is Unit 1, Ancient and Classical Civilizations. Unit 2 then is Major Civilizations and Cultural Interactions is the official title of it, but it basically covers the Middle Ages. Unit 3 then deals with the Renaissance, Reformation, and the Age of Exploration. And then Unit 4 covers political revolutions, and that's what we wrap up semester 1 with. When we come back from winter break and we start semester 2, there's 5 units that we cover in semester 2. The first one is Unit 5, the Industrial Revolution and Imperialism. Unit 6 covers World War I, the Russian Revolution, and the interwar years between World War I and World War II. Unit 7 then covers World War II and the Holocaust, and that's how we wrap up the time of semester 2 before spring break. When we come back from spring break, then we jump into Unit 8, Cold War and Decolonization, and we wrap up the year with Unit 9, Globalization, and bringing us into the modern world. So let me tell you a little bit about some of the materials and resources that your student would want to have in this class. We'll start with materials. First is the unit book. At the beginning of each unit, I give the students a unit book. Each student has their own. It's all of the papers and activities and notes and everything that we're going to use for that unit in one convenient place. So it's critical then that students bring their unit book with them to class each day. Writing utensils as well, since we're doing a lot on paper there in the unit book. They need a pencil or a pen, either works. And then bringing a charged Chromebook is helpful as well. There's often things that or resources available to students that we're working through in class and that they can access there on Canvas. And so having a charged Chromebook with them each day helps with that. Some resources that can help students to be prepared for tests, to stay on track if they're ever absent and things like that. The biggest resource for them to stay on track and to know what we're doing throughout the course is Canvas. On Canvas, and we'll take a look at this later, they'll have the daily slides, what it is that we're going through that day, which has pretty clear instructions and shows them exactly what it is that we covered. It'll also have a list of each of the activities or assignments that we did in class, the notes and all of those different things. It'll, like I said, have those activities that we're doing. It'll have an agenda for the day, what it is that we covered, and that'll always be on the first slide of the notes as well. It also has the success criteria and learning intentions for that lesson. We'll take a look at all of those things a little bit later. The unit book itself is a phenomenal resource for students, especially as they're studying and preparing for tests. The information that will be on the tests is all information that's coming from the notes and activities and things that we did in class. They'll be there in that unit book. That unit book at the end also has a study guide to help them prepare for the test. And then also the rubric for the unit book check. At the end of the unit, students will turn in their unit book, and I just grade all of the work that we've been working through in class together in that unit book all at once while students are taking their unit tests. And then finally, the online textbook is there students have access to it in Canvas as well, and that's where students will complete their daily assignments. So the homework each day, most days in class, will have homework, and that homework are called SmartBook assignments. Those are built by McGraw-Hill, the publisher of our textbook. Really, really cool system. Essentially, students in SmartBook assignments will read the pages that are listed there in the online textbook or in the physical textbook. They can check out a physical copy of the textbook if they prefer. But they'll read those pages in of the assigned reading. And then the system will give them questions over those concepts that are there in the reading. Typically, a typical SmartBook assignment will cover 7 concepts, and students have to answer correctly 2 questions over each concept in order to complete the assignment. If a student gets a question wrong, the system tells them what the correct answer is with an explanation, and then it will simply give them the program will give them a new question over that same concept. So it kind of ensures that mastery. Again, students have to get 2 questions right over each concept in order to complete the assignment, but those assignments are completion. So as long as the student completes it, then they get the 5 points for that homework assignment. Students can always go back and complete old SmartBook assignments if they've fallen behind, but I always strongly encourage them to stay on track with those, keeps them from having work that's piling up, and those assignments align with what it is that we're covering in class or help to cover gaps in things that we don't have time to cover in class as much. All right, let's talk about some of the expectations and routines. Here's what is expected of the students. All of these things, by the way, are things that I've gone over with the students, both at the beginning of the year, and we've been refreshing ourselves on and practicing throughout. So let's start with expectations. The first is that students are coming to class prepared. That's physically prepared, having the required materials and things like that, of course, having their homework completed, all of those different things. But perhaps just as importantly, it's being mentally prepared as well. Having the right mindset and the right attitude towards class, right? Of saying, whether history is one's favorite subject or not, I'm here to learn, and there's something that I can take away from today's class that's unique to today, that I can both get out of class and that I can contribute to the class as well. That's the mindset that I'd love to see students coming to class with. Along with that is then participating. That's, of course, doing the work and following along and doing the things that we're doing, taking notes as we're taking notes, etc. But adding to the class as well, participating in group discussions or in group work or individual work, whatever it is that we're doing, working with their seat partner, whatever it is that we are doing at a particular time, that students are on task and participating in those things. They're going to get more out of the class, of course, if they're participating throughout. And then having respect for others, having respect for themselves, and respect for the classroom environment. Respect is critical to everything that we're doing, whether we're in a discussion or we're working on something together, showing respect to others, speaking in kindness, using words and bringing attitudes that are respectful and that are kind, that are important to what is that we're accomplishing together in class. And then respect for themselves, right? Expecting the same thing from their fellow students, being willing to stand up for themselves if they're not being shown that respect, and going to an authority figure if there's a serious issue. And then respect for the classroom environment as well. The shared space that we have, that we're sharing with not just each other within one class, but across multiple classes, showing respect, keeping that classroom environment neat and tidy and things like that. And then ultimately, the expectation is that students do their best. Not every student is going to be a history genius. I understand that this class might be a struggle for some, and I'm here to help and support them in that. But every student can, while not every student might be able to earn an A, every student is able to do their best. And I am always encouraging students that if they're doing their best, then the grade will generally reflect that, even if this isn't their strongest subject area. Lots of opportunities for students to be rewarded with points for their effort as much as it is for what it is that they learn and know from the class itself. So the expectation that students do their best. All right, let's talk about some of the routines that students should expect to be doing and things that we've been doing throughout our time together so far. So first, the expectation and the routine that students should be getting into is to be in their assigned seat with their phone parked when the bell rings. I like to get started right away, so having students ready to go at the start of class is helpful. And then having their phone parked as well. Different teachers might have different approaches to this. Of course, on a statewide level, of course, the state law now is that students shouldn't be using cell phones except with teacher permission and for a academic purpose. And so people have tried, different teachers do it different ways, and I've tried both ways, letting them have them in their backpack versus having them parked in a designated spot in a phone holder. And I've found that having them parked in a phone holder works best, helps to remove that temptation and allows students to connect a little bit better throughout the class period. If you ever need to contact your student, of course, you can contact the school office and they can call me or send somebody down to get them. And obviously, they still have access to their phones during passing period and in between classes and at lunch and things like that. So your support in this goes a long way as you help support your students. And students generally have found this to actually be helpful, right? To remove that distraction, allows them to connect better with one another, be able to focus more during class. We've had great response to that so far. The next routine is that students would review the agenda, which is always on screen on the slides, just to see what it is that we're doing that day. We'll then get into the lesson for the day. That could be a combination usually of notes and different activities that we're doing, some individual, but a lot of group work and partner work as well to get students interacting and learning together. So you have the lesson itself. Anything that the students don't finish from that lesson that's important to have finished by the next lesson, I'll let them know to have that complete before next class. Otherwise, we'll just pick up where we left off and ready to move on to the next lesson, the next class. And then homework with any remaining time. So their homework, again, those smart book assignments they have access to via Canvas. The expectation is that they have those completed by the next class. Let's talk briefly about the reassessment policy and grades and things like that. This is something that I really appreciate about Carmel Clay Schools and here at Carmel High School, the philosophy that learning is a continuous process, that not everyone learns at the same pace, and that the goal is for students to master critical concepts that were maybe missed the first time around, but are needed for future success. This is important because some things are going to come back, right? Things build on each other, and so making sure that students are on the right track can be helpful with that and giving them the opportunity to reassess. So in practice, what this looks like is that students earn the right to reassess by demonstrating an authentic attempt at mastery. They're showing, again, going back to the idea of effort in doing their best, they're showing that they're doing their best, they earn the right to reassess. So what does that look like in my world history class in particular? In my world history class, I make reassessment opportunities available for all unit tests. And so the way that this looks is that students have the opportunity to complete test corrections. This includes, so here's the question that I missed, here's the correct answer written out, and then crucially, an explanation of what makes that answer correct, or what makes the answer that they put incorrect, whichever kind of makes more sense for that particular question. This requires then students to recognize what it is that they missed the first time around and to demonstrate that they understand it now. And that I think aligns very, very much with that philosophy of learning as a continuous process. I'm, of course, more than willing and happy to help them to figure out what it is that they got wrong the first time around and bring them to that understanding, taking them from what they already know to what they didn't quite understand the first time around. They can earn between 1/4 and 1/2 point back for each correction that they've completed, so it gives them a great opportunity. I think that balances earning those points back in that reassessment, but also, or through those test corrections, but also incentivizing students to prepare well for the assessment the first time around in sort of that time-bound instruction. So I think both of those, it helps to balance both of those. So let's go ahead and check out my Canvas page so you can see some of the access to those resources there. By the way, as far as the grading scale, as far as how points are calculated for my class, I use a straight points system, so different assignments aren't weighted differently. So you can know how much weight a particular assignment has based on how many points it is. So for example, SmartBook assignments are just 5 points, but they can add up, of course. And then the unit tests are usually between 35 and 45 points, somewhere in there, usually around the 40-point range. And then final projects at the end of each semester is a final project that students complete, and those are each worth 50 points. So you kind of know sort of the weight there based on how many points it is. All right, so on Canvas, if you were to click on my course there from the dashboard, and then I'll switch this to student view here so you can see it the way that a student would see, without any extra things there. The main thing that students are going to go through most of the time is learning modules. Let's say that a student is absent, or you want to know what is going on in class that day, what it is that we're up to, or a student is trying to stay on track. Up at the top are some resources that are just helpful generally for students: calendar, lunch schedule, bus info, daily schedule, and the late start schedule. And then at the top will always be the most recent lesson for Blue Day and Gold Day. So you have the agenda. We'll look at that in a moment. Well, you have the lesson, the title of the lesson there. You have the agenda. You have a link to those days' slides, and you have a link to the SmartBook assignment itself. Let's take a look at the agenda. If you look at that day's agenda, it'll have the Gold and the Blue Day listed, so based on which day your student has that course. You have the learning intention and the success criteria. Here's what it is that we're learning in class today as tied to the standards. It's not a word-for-word replication of the standard, but it's how we are applying that standard, that state standard, to that lesson. And the success criteria lets students know, hey, if you can do these things, you have met. Then you've met that learning intention. That's how you know that you're having success on that day. It'll list the agenda. Here's the different things that we're doing that day, along with a link to what they look like. So for example, the map activity that we're starting out class with today, they can see what it is that we're doing, and they can see how that lines up with what it is that they're doing in their unit book. If the student has their unit book with them, they can see exactly what it is that we're doing that day and complete that work even if they're out of class. You also have a link to the slides. You see that within the agenda, and you also see that on the main module page there. So they can see the agenda, what it is that we're doing, and they can go through the slides and follow along there, get notes filled in, complete those different activities and such that we're doing that day. So that way, even if a student is absent on a particular day, they're able to stay on track, or they're able to easily go back to the day that they missed and get that information finished up. Again, it'll also list the homework at the bottom there. That's pretty much it as far as important things for Canvas. They can find assignments over here. They can access the SmartBook materials directly over here with the McGraw-Hill single sign-on link, the online textbook link down there as well. There's a link for them to see the grades within Canvas, but those might not be all of the grades, and they might not be fully up to date. Take a look at PowerSchool if you want to know what grades are officially counting towards a student's grade at any particular time. But if you want to stay on track with Canvas, I highly recommend registering as an observer for your child's classes. If that's something that you're not sure how to do, if you're not sure whether you're already an observer, reach out to me and I can help set that up for you. Thank you so much for watching. Your investment in your child and their education is the best investment that you can make in their future. If you have any questions ever, you can message me via Canvas if you're on Observer in Canvas, or you can email me there, PMCMILLA. Note that the N gets cut off due to the character limit there, so cut off there, and then at ccs.k12.in.us. Available to you anytime. I'll get back to you as soon as I can if you ever have any questions or you just want to know how you can help your students succeed. I'm thrilled to have your child in my course this year in my class. Really excited to get to know them better, really excited to have already gotten to start to get to know them a little bit, and looking forward to partnering with you to make this a successful year for them in world history. Bye for now. Have a great rest of your day.